Hello and welcome to Digitech. Today we're carrying on with the Cipher program. So we're just going to reopen it in GitHub Desktop rather than going through creating a new project through the template. So just open up GitHub Desktop, have a look that we're looking at the right project, and click Open in Visual Studio Code. Here's our code. You can see I've actually collapsed the two functions. We've got function encrypt there, function decrypt, but you can't see any of the code inside those. Just makes it a bit easier to have a look at the higher level view of the project. Not really in the nitty gritty details. We just kind of want to get back to where we were at the end of the last project by having a quick overview, testing it, playing around with it, and getting back into the mind frame of this particular project. So I've done npm run dev to start up our server and play around with it a bit. You can see all the HTML written there with a little bit of Svelte. And under the encrypt function, we can see our encryption stuff, changing it from plain text into ciphertext, and then our decrypt function, which changes it from ciphertext to plain text. If you want to have a look at how any of those functions work, the previous two videos go into those, but today we're going to try shifting the values. So no longer will t be 116, we'll shift it to some other different value so that it's not quite so easy for a person to look at the character codes and just look up what the codes are online and decrypt our sentence. We want to keep it a little bit more secret than that. So I'm going to create a constant at the top. The constant's going to be called shift, and I'm going to give it the initial value of 3. So we're going to comment out how we were encrypting the codes before. It's going to be pretty much the same. So I'm going to get every letter and get the character code for each letter. But instead of saving the character code straight away, I'm going to add the shift value. So if it was 116 before for T, that 116 is now going to be 119. I'm going to save 119 to our encryption, our ciphertext. And it's still going to separate it with pipes because that helps us spot where the difference is, where one character code ends and the next one begins. So if I encrypt testing, you can see where they used to start with 116, it now starts with 119. And I think, yeah, A must have been 97 before, and now it's 100. So if I change it back to the way it was, I guess A will be 97 this time. There we go. So we do know that our function is working as intended. It's changing the values and shifting them by 3. So if someone tried to decrypt one of our sentences with an existing decryption function, just straight using the character codes, they would get some gibberish. So our secret is still safe. Now, obviously we need a decryption function because we want to be able to figure out what the sentence actually says. This one's actually a little bit easier because we already have the char code, we just need to shift it back. So whatever you do in the encryption function, you do the opposite in the decryption function. I added the shift in the first one, so I'm minusing it in the second one. Quick test, looks good. So now, even though the values are actually shifted and the character codes in the encrypted string aren't the character codes that our text has, we can still decrypt it because we know what's actually going on and we have the correct decryption function. Now with the shift, you can set it to any value you want. It is a number, so we're dealing with character codes which are numbers, so we need to just be aware that adding letters and stuff to them is probably not going to do much, but any kind of maths that you can undo, then you can do to the encryption. So if you want to times it in the encryption, you can divide it in the decryption. You could even square it if you wanted, and then square root in the decryption function. Anything that you can do in combinations of those work as well. So if you want to get creative and come up with your own way of just messing with that number that makes it really hard for someone else to guess it, then you can do that. So if you're a bit of a math whiz, you can figure out some really interesting way of encrypting your codes. I wonder if you could use factorial or something like that. Is there an opposite to factorial? I don't know. But yeah, now that we've made that change, we can commit it to GitHub. You would have watched me do a bunch of random testing to try and break it. But now I'm just going to open it up in GitHub and have a look and see that the changes are still there. You'll notice I left the old way of encrypting as a comment, just in case I want to look back on nostalgia, or if I ever need to change it back to a working one. I decided to test out some of the other ways of doing it by timesing and dividing by 3 instead of adding and minusing, and you can see it works just fine. The numbers are a little bit bigger, but that's the only difference. It still works back and forth just as well. You can change the shift. Doesn't have to be 3, it can be any number you like. I didn't test this with decimal values of the shift. I guess you could give it a try and see if it works or not. Yeah, I think I can't give a definitive answer as to whether that would work or not. Give it a try and let me know if it works. I'd be interested to see. That'll do us for our shifting.